Was that quite impossible? So guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're at the Railway Museum and I believe Scotsman is here. So I've come down as I'm in the area anyway, picking up a new fuel pump for Big Red to replace the faulty high pressure pump that we have, so then I don't have to keep resetting it every time that we start the engine. So I thought, know what, for our train subscribers and myself, we'd come up to the Railway Museum and go see Scotsman while she's here. So, well anyway, we just entered the main hall. So, the one next to us is a 9F called Evening Star. She was the last steam train to actually be built for British Rail, and you could tell because the actual builders on this one, they put a lot more brass and copper in a lot of places that normally weren't seen. And it was, from the moment she was built, she was destined to be stuffed and turned into a museum piece. This one, I believe she only ran for, I think, not many years, hardly any to be frank. It's one that would be nice to see back on the rails, to be honest, but well, so yep, Evening Star was the last locomotive ever built for British Rail. Its green paintwork and copper capped chimney deliberately marked it out as a special commemorative vehicle. All other good vehicles built in this design were painted black. It was also the only one to be given a name rather than just a number. Between 1954 and 1960, 251 of these engines were built, even though British Rail decided to phase out steam power in 55. Evening Star operated for just 5 years, designed to move heavy loads at fast speeds. These engines are some of the largest and most powerful locomotives ever built in Britain. So she was built in Swindon Works, Wiltshire, in 1960. Yeah. Quite sad really, when you think about it. Yeah, we'll go have a look at the cab anyway. But it's like I said, it would have been nice. This is one I'd like to see if the Railway Museum had ever actually considered re-steaming. But I don't think they will. I don't like doing that, to be frank. So the next one alongside is 35029. So this one's a Merchant Navy class. But this one is a bit unique of what the museum's done with this one, as they've actually cut open the side of it to actually show how a steam train actually looks. A thing that you don't normally see. Pretty cool how this was done to show it. So this one, when the British Rail stopped using steam locomotives, many engines ended up in scrapyards across the country. Some of them were bought by enthusiasts, heritage rail lines and museums, and many more restored to working order. The National Railway bought this locomotive from a scrapyard in '74 and cut it in half so you can see inside. Our explainers give regular talks about here to describe how a steam locomotive works. Then our next one is number 3, part of the Furnish Railway, and this one was called Copper Knob. Now if you look at the top, you'll probably understand why it was called Copper Knob, because part of the boiler was, well, you guessed it, Rather unique, to say the least. So copper knob is the last surviving example of a bar frame locomotive in the UK. Bar frame locomotives were designed to be big and powerful, but without being heavy. The designer Edward Bury used a slim frame of iron bars as a structure instead of heavy timber and iron frames other engineers were using. The design became standard for American-built locos. Copper knob survived the Second World War bombing raid in May 1941. You can still see the halls. After a working life hauling goods and passengers, the locomotive was retired and put on display in a glass house on Barrow in the Furness station. When the station was bombed, shrapnel destroyed the glass house and punctured the boiler and paintwork. I see Rocket's not here on this one normally. So this one would have been one of the carriages used by one of the first steam trains called Rocket. View of number 3. Of course, still see. Next one is a Doncaster built loco. So this was GNR, Great Northern Railway Co. Number 5, number 50 of the makers, and built in 1870. Oh, look at that wheel. Now this next one is quite a unique train. So built during the war, during the Second World War, and it was done because during the war they weren't using as much steel as they normally would, so they had to cut it down a bit. Now this one ain't the most prettiest loco because it was designed for one thing, which was get the job done. Now sadly, I'm a bit annoyed with the Railway Museum over this one. And I've actually emailed them a couple of times because they've actually dumped the actual back end of the train outside. And the last time I was here, it was unprotected. So it's quite a historical thing, and you can see just what they were trying to do. So there was no fancy bits. It was literally just so they could get them built, get things moving on the rails. But they took the tender off, and you could still see that outside. So we'll see if it's still there. But the thing is, they've still not brought it back. So I don't understand that. I don't understand what they're playing at, to be honest. It's a shame, because that's quite an historical piece of kit. So thing is, at the moment, the Railway Museum, they're having a major change, and they're basically, they're changing it from being the National Railway Museum to the World Railway Museum, which, okay, fair enough, but it's also a part of the Science Museum family, which is starting to take over a bit. So the Railway Museum still has a fully functioning turntable, and the train that is actually sat on the turntable at the moment is a Deltic. So this is what replaced steam back in the day. was these monsters. Now, there was two kids, Charlie, who we met up in Inverness. They would have absolutely loved to have seen this one when they start them up, because, oh boy, don't they smoke. So, you heard me mention about Rocket, which again, why is it not hooked up to its carriages? Where's the logic? Still doesn't make sense. There's a couple of things the Railway Museum is doing at the moment. It just doesn't make sense, but this is Rocket. It's only a replica, this one. So there is a working replica here as well, but I also believe the actual main science museum has the original that's in black. So in 1829, the Liverpool Railway launched a competition to find the best way to haul carriages and wagon horses, stationed using cable or steam locomotive. Rocket won, and the line became the first intercity mainline railway, setting up steam locomotives to change the world. Built as a prototype by Stephenson's Rocket Company, Rocket remained a work in progress. It applied some key principles used by all steam locomotives that came afterwards. In this cut-out replica, you can see that many tubes in the boiler, the blast pipes, and the direct connection between the piston and the wheels, which all made Rocket more efficient. The original Rocket was altered a good deal during its working career of almost 30 years. So, if you know your trains, you'll also know that you had a Trifulix engine as well. It weren't just Rocket, but it was like, back then, it was a major competition to see who could do the next. So, the next one, quite a nice looking loco again. So, not every steam train has a name. So, this one was called Hippopotamus Class, number 1275, 1874. So it was built in the Glasgow Locomotive Works, so she's actually a Scottish-built loco. It's a very pretty looking one. I don't know when she last ran. Probably when she came out of service. So, imagine driving this loco through rain, wind or snow. The open cab would have left its drivers and firemen completely exposed to the elements. It went over the highest stretch of railway in England to the Stainmore summit, so in the winter the workers would have had to battle very harsh conditions. The locomotive worked just as hard as the team driving it. It covered over 90,000 miles over 50 years. Although built in 1874, its design was created 20 years before. The design included a particular long boiler and an idea painted by Robert Stephenson in 1842, which made it unstable at high speed. It couldn't go fast, but it was very powerful, perfect for hauling heavy goods. So this particular one was built in 1874 by the North Eastern Railway Company, and the designer was William Balch. Pretty simple really when you consider other steam locos, and about as unpleasant, but it's not in the best of state on its paint anymore. Now what is this little thing? There you go. So this tiny loco, it's called PET. Is a rail equivalent of a forklift truck. Its small size was perfect for moving trucks across the vast and busy railway works of Crewe, on tracks just 1 foot 6 inches wide. It was used there until 1929, when the railway moved to using petrol or diesel power. Nice. Pretty cool. Then of course you've got the front of an intercity express. The programmable train. an old narrow gauge carriage from 1898. This one's just left. So a lot of you will know that we absolutely love the narrow gauge locos because, well, we go to Wales a lot, and most of the locos that steam in Wales are narrow gauge trains. So I would show you all the name boards, but well, that's all blocked off again because they're doing work over there on something. So the next one is a carriage. So this is a Southern Railway carriage. Go up the stairs, show you. Here we go. Here we go. So you just heard me talking about Wales. Well, you all know we go near Festiniog all the time. Well, this is actually one of their locos. So it's a double-ended loco. So you've got a boiler on both ends. So literally the train never has to be turned. It's pretty cool how it works actually. So, which if you go through my video, you can actually see one of these in action, actually running. So if you want to see one of these run in the summer, go to Port Maddock. They have one, and it's, I think, if I remember rightly, it's called Prince. It's still in service today. Another old carriage from 1851. And of course, they've actually hooked an old train up to this one. So again, this is a little tank engine. She's only a baby. It's Maker's Plate, built by Black Hawthorne Co. and engineers in Gateshead on the Tyne. So she's called Boxton Number 2. So thousands of small locos like this one kept industry going for nearly 2 centuries. Although dozens of rail companies made engines like this, they were almost invisible to the public, and relatively few have been collected or preserved. Instead of breaking records and making headline news, they helped move coal, build dams, carry timber and transport products all over the country. A rare survivor among industrial engines was essentially a sort of steam-powered dumper truck. Worked for an aluminium company until 1947. Aluminium is a material extracted from bauxitic rock. It's been left in the condition in which it finished work on purpose to illustrate what a 19th century industrial locomotive was like. So they were not all pretty. They were there for a job, which is get the job done. And as you can see. Now the next one used to sit on the turntable, which is Lodestar. So she's a Great Western train. Built in 1907. Has been going on since the railway began. Lodestar is a community of years of research and testing by George Churchward, the chief mechanical engineer at Great Western. Whilst out at the peak of Churchward's design career, combining all his locomotive and research. Churchward was killed by a castle. Whilst out at the peak of Churchward's design career, combining all his experiments and research into a cutting-edge locomotive, one which set the standard for GWR's locomotive design for the next 20 years. Ironically, after his retirement, Churchward was killed by a Castle-class locomotive, the next step up from the Star-class, when inspecting the railway line near his home in Swindon. What an idiot. But you can see why Castle-class looks very similar, because you can see it. Which anyone that knows their railway ones will know that there's a famous one, 5972, which is actually the proper Hogwarts Express, but she's a Castle-class locomotive. She's now in storage at the Warner Brothers studio. It's not the one that goes up in Scotland that they use on the Jacobite, which they make out, some people make out, is the Hogwarts Express, but it's not. But you can see a lot of similarities. And what we got here? Whose carriage is this one? That's got to be an 8F, 9F, 7100. I recognise that name. Who are you? Now, the next one is the most famous one of the most famous trains in history. She holds the world record for the fastest speed ever achieved by a steam locomotive that was recorded. However, I've heard through many different people over the years that there was actually quite regular. The record was beaten by other trains. It was just not put down on paper. Don't know how true it is, but it's something that I heard. I also heard, I think it was a King George class, had the potential of going faster, but they just couldn't keep up with the call. But this is Mallard, absolute pride of Yorkshire, this one. Designed by Sir Nigel Gresley, so she's an A4. She's got all her streamlining on. Now, when she did her record of 126 mile an hour, driven by Joe Donington down Summit Bank, the reason they had to pull her off in the end because she overheated one of her white metal bearings. But nothing serious. You hear a lot of people say, oh no, she was took out of service then, but that's the biggest load of rubbish. She was in service for another 30 years and then she became a stuffed icon for a little bit. Railway Museum spent a bit of money, had her refurbished. Back in the 80s was the last time she steamed, but I believe that that was only a limited time because I wanted to keep her in as near condition to what she was, and her boiler isn't in the best estate. But this is Mallard. Now imagine this train going 126 mile an hour. Be a dream come true if you ask me. So it's rather now she's hooked up to the car that originally did the record that does the timings. Now it's rather ironic that she's got her competitor next door to her, which is Duchess of Hamilton. Now up our end we have Duchess of Sutherland that is in the area, who's currently having an overhaul. So this one was originally like Duchess, but she had all the streamlining put back on when she came to the Railway Museum, and she's just had a cosmetic restoration. She's been like this ever since. So this carriage here is actually a bit of history, as it was what was used by the LNER to record their record speeds when they were doing it. So this one recorded Mallards, Scotchmans, and all that lot. Now, the Railway Museum, I remember this, back in 2012 during Railfest, they actually put this outside and it got wet. And it caused quite a considerable bit of damage, which they were not, put it this way, there were a lot of people that were not happy about it. So, and it looks like in some places that it's still not been fully repaired. Yeah, you can see it on the roof, on the inside, see where the paint's bubbled. So, because you have an old railway bridge in here as well, an old crossing bridge. Now this one's an LMS built, so she was built in Crewe. There you go, Trifuelix engine. Look at that chimney.
Make sure we're staying together. I want to. Yeah. 1829.
Now the next one, we've got a Pullman car called Topaz from 1913. These were quite luxurious back in the day. Built by Birmingham Railway & Co. Even has stained glass windows. So I'm recording this video with it was a video camera I got for my birthday, and we found it out again. I'm a bit terrible. I put things down, I forget where I put them. So anyone knows about the missing GoPro camera as well, that's still a sore subject. But I'm hoping that the video is good quality for you, so please comment below, and if you like this video so far, please like and subscribe. I do try. So the next one is 737. So she's a South Eastern and Chatham Railway Company's loco. So she's a D class number 737, built in 1901. This elegant locomotive featured in films, transported royalty and started passengers off on a glamorous trip to the continent. Design touches such as the way the wheel arches curve up into the cab show how it had been moulded by a craftsman of hands. Built in early 1900s, the South Eastern Railway D-Class were built to hold passenger trains and ran until the 1950s. The railway travelled to ports like Dover, Folkestone, which linked Britain to France and Belgium, and ran special boat trains which connected directly with ferry services. In 1981, this locomotive played a starring role. In the Oscar-winning film Chariots of Fire. Beautiful loco though. Look at her. Beautiful. Now the next one, rather futuristic, is the Japanese bullet train. So this one was gifted to the Railway Museum by Japan. It's pretty cool loco. High-speed train from Japan. Built in 1976. The Shinkansen. These trains reach speeds of 130 miles an hour in 1064, almost double the speed of traditional British steam trains. Increased passenger demand resulted in greater investment into high speed and the improvement of track technology, signal and electrical power systems. The journey time from Tokyo to Osaka was reduced from just over 3 hours in 1964 to 2 hours and 22 minutes today. Looks quite packed in there, so I'm not gonna go in. But I think in one of my other videos I showed this one anyway. Now the next one is a pretty impressive bit of kit, to be frank. This is one of my favourites every time I come here. So it's a Chinese train that was built for China, and then she was gifted to the Rail Museum on her retirement. But boy, look at the size of that beast.
It's dirty. Let's go around this way.
I've seen this one many times over the years, and it always surprises me just how big. I've got a photo from like 10 years ago where I'm stood next to these wheels. So she's KF7, built in 1935. So she's the largest locomotive in the Railway Museum's collection, and it's one of the largest ever built in Britain. It was designed for a line in China that had steep hills and weak bridges, so it needed to be large and powerful without putting a huge weight on each axle. By the time the locomotive was produced, Britain's railways had a global influence, and British railway vehicles were exported around the world. This engine received strong personal connections between Britain and China. The designer, Sir Kenneth Cantile, was the godson of Dr. Sun Yat-sen, first president of the Chinese Republic. It ran until 1977 and 81, The Chinese government gave it to the Railway Museum. And boy, she is one monster. Look at that tank. That is just impressive. Just imagine that coming down the railway at you. So you have various different things all scattered around. Different little signposts that originally was put in various different areas. So you can see what the Railway Museum's trying to do. You're getting a bit more on display in places. So this is a South African train built in 1896, but British built again, shipped out to South Africa. Number 36 was built in Great Britain and was exported to South Africa. It worked for over 70 years before it was donated to the artist and Dr. Shepherd, the then president of Zimbabwe, by the then president of Zimbabwe. Shepherd had donated the helicopter to Zimbabwe in 19 to help prevent poaching. He received number in return and brought it back to Great Britain in 75. Nice bit of kit. It was a train that was used to take out the rubbish out of the Channel Tunnel when they were building it. Pretty cool. So you want to notice in these, normally they were out of sight and out of mind. So quite nice to see one saved. Quite historical considering it connected mainline Britain to France. And of course they have a bit that looks just like the Channel Tunnel on the inside, and they've also got an old Eurostar train. Gives you an idea. So the Railway Museum, it's got various different things. You see all the different nameplates from bygone names, all the different ones that were around back in the day. It's like Oriental Line, Merchant Navy class, Bombay, Castle class, and the one Sir James Milne. And of course signposts that would have been on various different stretches of the railway, like this one, Stainmore Summit, 1370 feet. This has been new. I don't know what this one's from. It's from ABB. Shows you how a train frame is nowadays. Now the Railway Museum, they have their own little model railway which they have on display. You can go look at. So just bear with me, a bunch of school kids are coming out. So the last time I was here, this wasn't working, which was quite sad. But it looks like it's working again. Some amazing details on it. Those bridges. Okay guys, well that's the main hall. I'm going to end the video here on this particular point because, well, you've all seen the massive collection at the back. I could sit all day to, that could be a separate video, but there is one person that we are here for, and she is here, and that is Scotsman. So that's going to be in a part of a separate video. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, but also please follow the channel because, well, we've got some major plans coming this year. some various different railway ends that we're going to see, and also with our camper van adventure as well. So, okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.